Today we are announcing a previously secret project. Now it's really simple though, okay? It is a fully decentralized way to balance your Lightning channels that's quite a bit different from everything that currently exists. So my name's Warren Togami. I've been working in open source and Linux for a long time, since like 1999, long before Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm Konstantin, so I'm the founder of Donnerdungeon, where I was building Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, which was a Lightning native video game. But then I realized creating games is much harder than developing on Bitcoin, so now I work on PeerSwap with Blockstream.
Okay, so we'll be going over what is PeerSwap, and why is it good for the network, and how does it work?
And I'm going to talk about the technical details of it.
Okay. So I came from the point of view of I am a new Lightning node operator, and what is the most difficult problem of operating your own node is balancing channels. It's very difficult and expensive, and so the approach that I took is to ignore all existing advice on the internet, and it's how would I approach this? And after observing the behavior of a node that's trying to be productive in routing, I feel that a large amount of capital tied up in the LN is stuck almost forever and is unproductive as a result. And the way the node software works, if it has tried the route through you in the past and failed, it tries you less often. So here is a picture using the C Lightning summary plugin, where on the left side is the channel capacity on your side of the channel, and the right side is the channel capacity owned by the other side. And most people want their channels to be balanced to 50% so that you are capable of routing in either direction at any time, but it's not that easy to do that. And most existing guides encourage opening more channels as the solution. And most existing solutions utilize multi-hop routes. And unfortunately, multi-hop routes are actually harmful. And not too many people talk about this in public. It's if you've ever tried a circular, you know that it almost never works, or you realize what's actually happening if it does work. You are preying upon somebody else who probably doesn't know any better. And this is ultimately a zero-sum game. So there needs to be a different solution. And there are other balancing solutions that are unidirectional multi-hop. The problem with multi-hop is that by design, you are not supposed to know the channel capacity or the channel balance of other people's nodes. So while you may balance your own channels that you can see locally, you very often are harming other people's balance. So I felt that we needed a different solution. So what does PeerSwap do? It's extremely simple. We're using a convention here where a yellow node is an ordinary Lightning node. Right now we have implemented C Lightning and LND versions. Where if you run this optional plugin or add-on, it allows your node to talk over your existing TCP connections with your direct peers and to negotiate a on-chain swap. And this is the opposite approach from existing balancing methods, in that it is only with direct peers. It explicitly does not support multi-hop. So it requires your peers to opt into this type of swap. It enables every node to become its own swap provider. And rather than opening more and bigger channels, which is the conventional wisdom now, you can cheaply refill the channels you already have over and over again. And you're able to fix your local channel balance without harming other nodes. Now, you still want to open new channels sometimes, but that's really recommended if you want a more direct path to a frequent like payment destination or source. Like already in the prototype of PeerSwap, we have implemented 2 different on-chain swaps, and he'll be talking like about the possibility of adding more options for different swaps. Okay. So more simply, by making every node its own swap broker, you're able to refill your direct channels over and over again. And on the right here, like if you are node A, like quite often you want your channels to be balanced at 50%, but sometimes you want it to be balanced like 100% on one side or the other. Like in this case, what if that node on the left is a mining pool doing payouts? Then you don't really send payments to them. Now you have a cheap way to rebalance that so that it can route more mining payouts. Now, there's this other node down here that doesn't support PeerSwap, so it has a name. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, so PeerSwap is extremely simple. It requires pretty much no changes to existing Lightning nodes. It works with like C Lightning and the master branch of LND. It's the lowest cost of balancing and rebalancing your channels over and over again. It's reliable because it is only single hop. It's fully P2P and decentralized. There is no coordinator. And you don't need to open channels for balancing, so that reduces hot wallet risk. Like people don't talk too much about, like the more money you have in Lightning channels, the more you put your Bitcoin at risk of like 24/7 private keys online. So what if you could have fewer channels, but you refill them over and over again, so your routability remains high, while you keep most of your Bitcoin offline? Now the channels need to be big enough to be favored by the routing algorithms, but this makes your channels actually work far more often. And that allows you to reduce the cost of capital, and it also reduces the need to pay for incoming capacity, which is a popular thing right now. I think this is especially a benefit for end users, because for end users it's really, really hard to have like working channels to be able to pay and to receive reliably. But with this, it's very simple to balance the channels that you already have, and you don't need to put a lot of money into the active Lightning network. So some of you may recognize this picture from Twitter, like I think it was last week. The left is a so-called force-directed layout. So what it means is that the nodes they repulse each other, but they're pulled together, like weighted by channel size. Now, what that means is, unfortunately, there is a lot of centralization in the Lightning Network now, and I strongly believe that if you simply enable it to be cheap and easy for any node to balance any channel that it has, then you're able to flatten the topology and more decentralize the layout of the Lightning Network. And it will also drive routing fees down for everyone because there's even more competition. And I think the conference is publishing the slides, like maybe later. We don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but I tried to put together a comparison of different existing balancing solutions, is it decentralized or not? Is it reliable? Relative cost, the ease of use. A lot of them need better UI, UX. A thing that I call privity is do you need to tell people aside from the two parties any information? And UTXO privacy is how many people are able to probe your node to figure out all of your UTXOs. Okay, so now Konstantin will talk about how it works.
All right, so now that we know why we need PeerSwap, I'm going to talk a little bit how it works. So PeerSwaps are basically submarine swaps that consists of two on-chain transactions and a Lightning payment. The first, opening transaction has a script where you put the payment hash of the invoice and then you spend this transaction by revealing the pre-image. So this is the miniscript policy of the PeerSwaps. Miniscript compiles to Bitcoin script. If I would have put the Bitcoin script here, nobody could have read it. I mean, I couldn't. So this is some logical expressions. They have three spending paths, you could say, for different cases of how a swap goes. So this is the simple successful swap, meaning everything just works fine, and Alice, or let me just, A here is Alice, she's the taker of the swap, and Bob is the maker of the swap, so Alice pays the invoice. So in this case, Alice simply pays the invoice and signs the spending transaction so that she receives the on-chain funds. The second spending path would be the non-cooperative unsuccessful path. This could happen, for example, if the channel closes before the opening transaction confirms. And this would simply require a signature of Alice and Bob over a transaction that sends all funds back to Bob. This will also be the future taproot key path, which is cool because then it's cheaper and then you cannot detect PeerSwaps anymore on-chain. The last path is basically the unsuccessful non-cooperative path, meaning Alice could go offline or she doesn't respond anymore, and then after n blocks, that depends on the chain, Bob can spend the funds to him back. So we have two types of swap similar to other swap services, a swap out and a swap in. A swap out means Alice is the swap taker, so she wants to pay an invoice and receive on-chain funds for that. So the first step would be that Alice negotiates the swap with Bob. Bob estimates the on-chain fees for the opening transaction and sends it back to Alice and sends also some parameters back like his pub key hash. Once Alice pays this fee invoice, Bob would create and broadcast the opening transaction. Now Alice would wait for end confirmation. Again, that depends on the chain we're using. And would validate it. Is the script correct? Are the amounts correct? And then she would pay the swap invoice and could claim the opening transaction using the received pre-image, and the channel would be nicely balanced. As Warren said, it doesn't need to be evenly balanced. It could also be however Alice would want it, yeah. The swap in works similar, however, we can skip the fee negotiation as Alice would suffer the fee loss because she's now the maker if the swap doesn't go through. So she negotiates the swap with Bob again. Bob sends the pub key hash back. Now Alice would simply broadcast the opening transaction. Bob would wait for the confirmations and validate the transaction, pay the invoice, and then could claim the transaction. So currently we support Bitcoin and liquid Bitcoin. Both chains have different benefits and drawbacks. So of course Bitcoin is the totally trustless layer. And what's also cool is that it can use the Lightning Node's native wallet, so there's nothing you need to run besides PeerSwap. However, some drawbacks compared to Liquid would be that it's a little bit longer for the swap to complete, and also the time is harder to estimate as the fee markets are a lot more variable than Liquid. So for Liquid, the benefits are that the transactions are blinded, which is pretty cool, and then with Taproot it's even more privacy. It's a lot quicker, so it's 2 confirmations on Liquid. Liquid has a block time of 1 minute that is also consistent, so you could time the swap basically so that it only takes 1 minute for a swap to complete. The drawback would be that it's a different trust model than Bitcoin, and also currently we would require you to run a Liquid node, which I guess sucks on Raspberry Pis, for example, but we're working on a lightweight wallet implementation using Blockstream's GDK. And then you could also implement other chains that could work with a revealing pre-image part.
So because every node opts into using PeerSwap, you can choose which wallets you support for your swaps. And when the nodes talk to each other, they tell their channel partner which other wallets they support. So if people want to implement other swap chains like RBTC or whatever they can, there's now like several other like newer L2s like state chains or the federated Chaumian thing. So it's possible for these other protocols to implement swaps as well, and it's really permissionless. Because it's really between the 2 channel partners, like whichever wallets they want to support.
So what's the status? It's a prototype that's not released yet. It supports LND and C Lightning with their respective on-chain wallets. Currently, we require a allow list so that you decide who can swap with you. We still need to figure out like an incentive and premium model. And we don't know if we can get rid of the allow list, and if we even want to get rid of the allow list, but this requires further research and discussion. For the roadmap, we plan to release open source soon-ish. We still need to finish the standardization for the spec. A question would be, could this become part of the LN base spec? So I guess it might make sense, it might make no sense, further discussion needed. We're implementing the optional light liquid wallet. So we only think about 1-hop swaps, but 2-hop swaps would also be pretty reliable, as both Alice and Bob know their immediate channel to Carol here in this example. However, it gets a little bit more complicated now for Bob to decide if he wants to do the swap. So this also requires more engineering. We have a call to action. You can go to our very rough website, and there's just a Discord link. And if you join that Discord, you can help us test it, because before we can release it, we need to test it a little bit more, and it would be great if there would be some beta testers. You can help us get involved with the specification. I think it would make sense, so there's currently only CLI, of course. It would be great if it would be in existing UIs and node managers. Raspberry Blitz would be cool. And then also future swap options, like Warren said, other chains, I don't know which, but you never know what could be implemented. And then Fedimint, which is pretty cool, and there will be a talk about it tomorrow by Elsirion. So this was it. Thank you. Thanks. So if there are any questions?
Is there a way for the peer to charge like a premium, like I'm the maker, I want to charge 1% or something?
Yes, that's currently like an idea, but we don't know how to, I guess, formulate that currently. But it makes total sense because you have opportunity costs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first goal is to automatically allow swaps where you're guaranteed not to lose money. So it is at least break even, and because you have to think very hard about the incentive model and the possible attacks. Like that's why it currently needs your peers to be added to an allow list. But in practice, like if you're operating a node for long enough, you know which of your direct peers are well behaving, and you might just allow those at first. Yeah. And the software already has a way that, like, if a new node is asking for PeerSwap, like the logs will tell you, and then you can think, oh, is this peer well behaving? Probably. Okay. Yeah. Now, in the longer term, after we've thought about the possible attacks and the incentive model, it's like you could try to offer like a very well connected node that is paid a premium for swaps. So that could be a business model for more nodes, but like our first priority is to make it safe. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. Yeah, a great presentation. Thank you. On that point, I was actually going to ask that question as well. But on that point, you are in a way better situation than something like Join Market, for example, where because as you point out, you've got some persistent connection with a peer. So yes, you have to analyze attacks. I'm going to guess you're going to be in a kind of good situation to possibly have a market mechanism, although it's questionable how much of a market mechanism you really need. I don't know. But anyway, one actual question. On the on-chain, I see at one point you mentioned Taproot. Are you thinking about using signature adapters to make the on-chain component of the swap completely private? You didn't mention that.
I currently cannot comment on that because I'm not too knowledgeable about that.
Right,
yet.
so it's just the idea that instead of using a hash pre-image, so that on that branch where you're revealing the hash pre-image and the other side can then claim their payment, instead of using that, you're using a signature adapter, so it's not visible to it's not published on the blockchain, the hash pre-image, so it's more private that way.
Okay. I welcome you to join the developer Discord and to ask these kind of questions.
Thanks. So I'll join the Discord.
Okay. So the current status, go back to the roadmap. Yeah. So the current status is that like we have a working prototype that works on both Signet and also mainnet. We've tested it on some nodes with smaller mainnet Lightning nodes. You know, like this being brand new, you probably don't want to put it on a very large Lightning node. Like we think it's okay, but the current protocol is like just a draft, and because it really only matters between you and your channel partner, like you're able to upgrade to a new version of the protocol like very easily. Where first you just verify, do I have any swaps in progress? Okay, look at the status. Okay, no, okay, so I can upgrade now. So I expect that the current protocol will be replaced several times as like developers talk in the developer chat, and we come up with like better ideas of how this should be standardized in the future. It's also worth mentioning that like we are okay with the project called PeerSwap going away in the future because it is a pretty simple protocol and it could be implemented by other software. Like there are, there's a popular automated node manager for C Lightning called CLBoss, and it'd be pretty easy to add that to that. And there's like it could even be added to like other Lightning node implementations as a base feature. Like it's entirely opt-in. So, yeah.
Congrats, I think it's a very useful project. I mean, liquidity is one of the main issues with Lightning, so this probably is something that will be helpful for every node. You talk about the spec, like whether it makes sense or not to go into the bold spec, I guess. Have you tried, is there any initiative yet, or do you have any more feedback on the integrating this into maybe a standard spec for Lightning, the bold spec, I guess.
You mean implementing it to the bold spec?
Yeah, is that something you mentioned about, right? I think is that something you want to do, or is that?
I mean, if people would want that, I think it would be cool. But I think we have to like figure this out how this really works, and then it's nice if it runs beside the bold spec, and if it really works, it could be put inside, I guess, the bolds.
So right now we want developers and like people who are really familiar with their Lightning nodes to join the developer Discord, help us to test this on small nodes, give feedback about like how you think it should work, and I think that we do want to go towards like a interoperable bolt spec. But like for now, the priority was to get it to work at all first, in time for this conference. Yeah. Like at first, like people in the Discord will be invited to like test it, and like shortly after that, when we think it's a little safer, we'll open it up to the public.
So you mentioned it would be cheaper than splicing on one of your slides. I was just curious, how do you plan on doing that? Is that because it's on Liquid, or is there some other reason that it would be cheaper?
The difference may be extremely minor. My personal theory of why it could be cheaper than splicing is that splicing needs to be conservative with fee rate, where it has both channel partners like agreeing upon a conservatively high fee rate, because it's not very tolerant of extreme delays in opening the new channel or the replacement channel. With PeerSwap, it's very tolerant because it doesn't actually lock the channel at all, and it doesn't really care how long it takes. It uses CSV now, right? Yeah. It's meant to work with lower, possibly risky fee rates.
That's an open question. If it should lock the channel.
Yeah, we would like to discuss this in the developer Discord if it should lock. But currently, my personal theory is that it's not productive to lock the channel while you're waiting for the on-chain confirmations, because you pretty much would like initiate these swaps for channels that are just stuck. Like there's no other way of naturally getting them unstuck. So it's not going to naturally get to a balanced condition where the swap is going to be incapable of completing, or not very often. Yeah.
So for a decentralized protocol, how do you expect the takers to find the makers? Like, what's the medium? You're gonna leave this for the wallet developers, or it's gonna be a marketplace, like join market, or?
It's only direct peers.
How to detect the peers that run PeerSwap? So it's just a feature bit on your Lightning node. So you can just set a feature bit, so the program runs a feature bit so that you see all the nodes that run PeerSwap. And then you poll to your immediate nodes. It doesn't work to go back. Then you poll to your immediate nodes what assets you support, basically. And what your future fee rates and premiums might be.
It's my belief that the nodes that opt into being its own swap broker will have a competitive advantage over others. I would go back to that other slide right now, but the clicker doesn't work. Yeah. It's towards the beginning with the NGMI. Yeah.
I think it's just one
okay, it works now. Yeah. Like it's perfectly fine for some nodes to not support this. Like it's entirely voluntary to opt in.
But
yeah. No. I'm not making a judgment. Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.